Hey y'all, happy Sunday to ya. How y'all doing? Hope everybody's having a better day than we are around here. I don't know if you can hear it behind me or not, but it is raining cats and dogs. And it's a wet, miserable day out there right now. So, let's get going with just saying howdy to a few folks out here in the chat. We got Ayal Peleg. Howdy, good to see you again. Mr. Dave Gatton himself, CNC maker to the stars. Wilbert Pino, David Eichler, Thomas Grimm. Me too. Hope your wife continues to do well. She's doing very well, Thomas. I'm having to kind of corral her here. She's trying to do way too much. And she did a little bit of Christmas baking and has doing a little bit of cooking, but she's up and around and doing much, much better. Thank you. Jason Pulliam, Landis Stutes, Mr. Matt Haas, Awesome Wood Things, David Crook, Kevin Els, John DeRoos, Stephen Osborne, Michael McCrite, Jason Pulliam, Steve Nealon, Harneal Media, the sponsor of Mark Lindsay CNC in the house. How you doing, Steve? Stephen Toronto, Troy Pritchard, Dustin Fournier, Mike Haichu, Bumps, Jill Knight, Rob Landsman, David Kraus, Kevin Smith, Eric Massey, Jeff over at Restorer 66, Leroy Johnson. Yes, Matt, tacos are definitely awesome. So, hope everybody had a good Christmas. Hope everybody got what they wanted for Christmas, or at least got to be with some good people for Christmas. It was an absolute madhouse. 5 kids, 5 grandkids. Basically, I've been gone since mid-November, in and out of the house, bouncing around, going all over the ding-dong place. But here's hoping things can calm down and I can get back to making standard videos again. Something that I am going to be making a video on, but probably going to be just a short video if it actually is necessary. I've mentioned several times before that I rely completely on checklists because I can't trust my memory. And folks have asked for, well, how do you make a checklist? What kind of checklist do you have? What's on your checklist? They're nothing special. I mean, let me back up and say I got involved in that in the Army. I was an aircraft mechanic in the Army working on helicopters. And pilots it's enforced into a pilot that it doesn't matter how many times you do something, you follow a checklist, because all it takes is for you to forget one step, and that could lead to a fatal incident. Now, what I'm doing isn't that critical, of course, but it instilled in me to use a checklist for everything because you can't remember everything. Anybody who has ever hit cycle start on their controller and then realize they didn't turn a router on, or that maybe they didn't clamp something down as well as they thought they had, you can back me up in that. So I just basically have a notebook that I keep handy, and I'll jot down notes here and there, and I just start from the very beginning. It's something as simple and silly as turn on the computer, turn on the monitor, fire up Mach 3, leave it in the reset condition, then turn on the controller. That's, basically it. That's my startup procedure. But by having a checklist, I don't forget one thing. I don't turn on the controller before I have Mach 3 turned on. I want Mach 3 up and running because when that controller comes on, I want it under Mach 3's control. So it's just simple things like that. And I have a checklist for tool changes. That way I don't forget to set my Z0. It's on the checklist. And I just write them up. I'll go in and I'll print them up on standard printer paper. And I use the Scottish laminate. I just take clear package sealing tape and put them over that paper. And I got a stack of checklists sitting on the little desk that my computer keyboard and mouse is on out there in the shed. It's nothing really extravagant. It's just I write notes to myself all the time. I'm used to looking at notes. And I just, like I say, I have one for startup procedures. I have one for mounting. I have one for tool changes or anything oddball that I don't do very often, like hooking up the rotary axis. I have a certain procedure I have to follow, and I can't trust myself to remember everything. So, it's everybody's own trip. So, be my guest. But if it helps out, I don't know if that warrants a separate video on doing something like that, because I don't have any magic information in my checklist. It's just certain things that I've noticed that I will tend to overlook if I don't write it down and make sure that I'm following the right procedure. And I don't break bits. I tend to destroy less material that way, and it works for me. So, okay, so let's see here what we got going on in the chat. Let's see. Jason Pulliam says, I got a Spire last night, so looks like I have to rewatch all your videos, and thank you for them. Well, thank you very much, and congratulations, by the way. I've had a Spire for just a few months now, and I'm still learning it, which is why you haven't seen a lot of videos on it, because I've got to get good at some of this stuff. But the possibilities are basically endless. So it's good software. I like it. I like everything about it so far. I haven't found any real problems with it. It is pricey, but what can you say about that? A lot of the good software is. And my tutorials are not the end-all and be-all. Dig into the Vectric tutorials. I'm serious about that. That's how I learn. And just get in and practice. Also, don't forget you have other avenues. You have Lainey Shaughnessy over at Spindle TV. I'll put a link. Let me write it down. This is what I mean about keeping a notepad handy. And a pen that actually writes. Lainey Shaughnessy over at Spindle TV. He does live streams. He has a backlog of live stream shows that he's done. He bounces around, sometimes Sunday, sometimes Monday, sometimes Tuesday. And these are long live streams where he'll go through a project from beginning to end. I'll put a link in the description to his channel, Legacy CNC. They also have some excellent tutorials. Some of them are proprietary to their equipment, so you'd skip some steps that they have to go through or add some steps that they don't have to go through. But Legacy CNC is another good tutorial source. So just get into it, practice, and play with some projects, and you'll get good at it, believe me. So let's see we got going here. Bang, bang, bang. Awesome wood things. Dan the Man Langen, you have a great YouTube channel name. Yeah, there you go. He does. Okay, Acer Uglans, I believe that is. How do I square up an out of square X and Y axis on an axiom? Okay, that leads me into a great topic. Short answer to the long question is I don't know. And the reason I say that is because I've never been in the same building with an Axiom CNC. It's real hard for me to give anybody any advice on any specific kind of machine simply because I've never used one. So my advice to you would be to go over to Axiom's website. And at the top right of their page, there is a link that says forum. That is their support forum. Click on that link and join. And then look through that support forum. Now, just about every CNC manufacturer and just about every software manufacturer has a support forum. And what that is people who work for Axiom, some, but mainly it's other users, people who have these machines. They know the machine, they're experienced with the machine, they could probably help you out. Now, as I say, I've never been in the same building with an Axiom CNC, so it might be something simple, it might be something complex. But they know your machine, they use them too. They'd be the people to ask. So if you're having a problem with a certain manufacturer machine, an Axiom, a Legacy, a Laguna, whatever, hit their support forum because those are the people that know your machine the best. I'm just some guy on the internet, so, but I hope that helps you out a little bit. Let's see. Jeff over at Restorer 66. I have a question on how far over the lap has to be before you can use the weld tools. I'm having trouble putting a dip bowl shape in the corner of a rectangle dish. How far the overlap has to be before you can use the weld tools. Let's see. I believe you can adjust that tolerance. If not, what I usually do, Jeff, is I'll go into Node Edit and select that vector and take those last points, those last nodes, and just kind of drag them one on top of the other. And then come out of node editing and then weld them together. So, let's see. Alan K., I would recommend using a tablet for the checklist. Yes, if you save the checklist. I am notorious for writing notes and forgetting to save it, and when I do, it's gone. And I'm also notorious for walking out to the shop without my tablet. So having the checklists out there and in place, never to be brought into the house unless it's being thrown away because I've made a new one, that's the way I do it. So that and the tape measure you had, yeah, that's me. My kids for Father's Day one year gave me a coffee cup that basically said my "where the hell did I leave it this time" mug. So let's see. Eric Massey, CNC Nuts, has a video on squaring up his axes. Yes, he does. Peter Pasuelo has an excellent channel, CNC Nuts with a Z. Look him up on YouTube, subscribe. The man has a lot of good information over there. However, his CNC may be completely different from yours. So if you have one of the name brands, I would still recommend going to their support forum and checking them out. So let's see. Let's see. Bumps wants to know, have I done anything on stacked text? No, I haven't, Bumps. And the reason is because the folks at Vectric did one specific tutorial. And let's see, I'll write that down now. They did one specific tutorial that is absolutely the last word, the definitive word on doing stacked text. And I basically have nothing to add to it. It's done in a very methodical manner. It's easy to follow. It's one specific tutorial. It's not the one that you get to through help in the video browser within the program. It's on their YouTube channel. I'll find it and I'll put a link to it in the description after this becomes a standard video. give me about 10-15 minutes after we end the live stream, and I'll put it in the description. But basically, I have nothing to add to it. I would simply be remaking that tutorial in my voice. That's the main reason I haven't done anything on StackTex. So let's see. Let's see. Boy, which post works in VCarve for UC-CNC in inches? All VCarve offers is UC-CNC metric. You know, Eric, I am not sure. I don't know if UC-CNC has a support for them or not. You can check their website. They may have a post processor that you have to import. Dave Gatton is in the crowd here. Maybe Dave knows. He can let me know if there's a specific post processor for use in VCarve, the UC-CNC in inches. So let's see. Wilbert Pino wants to know, can you create a smooth cone inside taper in VCarve Pro, or do you need to use Aspire for a profile like that? The main reason I was hesitating in reading your question is because I'm trying to think if the, oh boy, which one is it? If the fluting tool path can do that or not. I don't know. You might want to experiment with the fluting tool path and see if you can make that work for you, but I'm not really certain. That's a good one. I'm going to have to write that down and do a little bit of playing with that. Let's see, a tapered cone. Good one. And thanks for that. This is how I get ideas for videos. So, let's see. Dustin Fournier, how do you do text over texture in VCarve Pro? I just happen to have done a video on that very subject. Let's see, I will put a link in the description when this video goes live. Give me about 10 minutes after this video becomes just a regular video and we close down the live stream. But I did do a video on just that subject. Let's see. And sorry, I'm trying to kill time here as I'm reading along. Okay, Stephen Osborne. When squaring up a new workpiece on the board, do I simply square it up to the edge of the workboard? I have a Bob Z4. It depends on how you created the table that your material sits on. Personally, when I made mine, I cut the front edge of my spoil board with the CNC so I know it runs parallel to my gantry. And then I could just square it up to the front edge of that using spacers or alignment jig or even just a carpenter square or a tri-square. So let's see. David Crook, wants your advice. I need to cut a series of 0.875 in 2-inch white oak using a 1/2-inch upcut bit. How deep would you make each pass? Okay, well, with a 1/2-inch bit, the general rule of thumb is no more than half of the bit's cutting diameter. So if your machine will handle it, you know, you're looking at 1/4 inch. That is a pretty deep cut. I'd be looking at 4 or 5 passes. You know, it just I don't know your machine. I don't know what it's capable of doing, but don't go more than half of the bit's cutting diameter per pass. And, you know, you can always take it gently. So let's see, John. Also, would you cut all the way to 0.875 in one pass, or would you suggest two? Yeah, I've never cut that deep in hardwood either, David. I would probably make 4 or 5 passes just to be on the safe side. So that is a deep cut. John Robinson, Legacy did 3 tutorials on stacked text. I used the VCarve stacked text class. John Hennon is a genius. Okay, thanks for that. Legacy CNC for stacked text. They have a good channel over there. They have some very good tutorials. And a lot of them were done as live streams, so they take questions and answers. So, okay, Dave Gatton kind of helped out there. You can use the Mach 2.3 arcs inches post processor for UC CNC. Good to know. I did not know that you could use that one. So, Jason Kelsey, good afternoon. I'm new to CNC carving. I have Xcarve 1000 by Inventables. I'm curious to know if VCarve will work for me before I make the purchase. The short answer, Jason, is yes, it will work. The long answer is this is another perfect example of jump over to Inventables, join their forum, because there are a lot of Xcarve owners over there that use VCarve. And they would be able to help you get everything set up, pick the right post processor, everything else. So that's an excellent example of the time to join the support forum. So take care, Matt. Have a good one. See you tomorrow. Let's see. All right, Cynthia Minnick. Hello, I'll look for lettering with texture. Thanks. Okay. Cynthia, I believe it's called the texture toolpath, but in the example that I used to demonstrate the texture toolpath, I left some text standing proud. So it's raised letters with a textured background. And I did that to show a couple of pitfalls, a couple of things to watch out for if you go to do such a project. So, like I said, I'll put a link in the description below as soon as we're done with the live stream. And that way you can go straight to it. Okay, let's see. Judy Phillips, hello Mark. I love your videos. They're the best. Thank you very much, Judy. Would love to see you do one on Photo VCarve. That's one of the things that I'm hoping to do this year. I've got a few pictures I've been wanting to do Photo VCarve on for a couple of years now. And I have just never gotten to it. There's always been something else jumped in front of it. But that's one of the tutorials I plan on doing this year. But I've got to do a couple of them, get a few under my belt before I think I'm confident enough to do a tutorial on it. I have a real philosophical problem with presuming to try to teach somebody something I'm just learning myself. So if I'm not getting good results, I don't know it well enough to try to show somebody else. So, let's see. Okay, David Crook came back in and said he's running a 2.2 kW water-cooled spindle, and he meant to say 1.875. And don't do it is an acceptable answer. My cutting depth is already set to 0.175. Basically, David, again, practice and scrap. I mean, a chunk of 4x4 or 2x4 post or something, 4x4 post. So, I don't know. With a 1/2-inch bit, that's pretty beefy. I don't know how strong your machine is. Again, and also something else to think about is the cutting surface on the side of your bit. Will it cut that deep? You know, or is it, are you taking a chance of it smacking the sides, the shank of the bit, smacking the insides of the cut, you know? So, just switched to Rhino and Rhino Cam with Win CNC. Much happier now. Rhino is an excellent, excellent program, but it's also it's similar to Autodesk Inventor and SolidWorks and Fusion 360. It's a pretty big hammer. So if you need something like that, then by all means. If you don't really need anything that big, what can you say? You know. So yeah, Mert, your question was hidden, and that's where it will remain. Boink. So let's see. Patrick comes along and says, Jason, I had an X-Carve, and yes, V-Carve works great. See, that's a good example right there. An X-Carve user coming in to help out. So, Jim Hester, I use hex head nylon bolts for my hold-down clamps. My son gave me a cordless right-angle ratchet for Christmas. Makes it a lot easier to tighten and loosen them, much less bending over time. You know, Jim, I have used the nylon as well. Just got to be careful. They will stretch over time. So, but that's a good, that is a viable option, and it does work. Just kind of keep your eye on it. If they start feeling like, you know, if they start feeling a little springy as you're tightening them down, it's time to replace them, because they will snap, and then that's, you know, how that goes. So, okay, I think, let's see, is that about, okay, Cynthia Minnick, I have to figure out Aspire lettering over texture. Whether it be Aspire or V-Carve, they're both the same. I don't remember if I did that video in Aspire or V-Carve, but they're both the same. The procedure is the same. And that's one of the great things about the Vectric software is if you have a process that you've learned in V-Carve, it's almost always done identically in Aspire. So if you move up, you can just basically, you know, there are a few differences, but they're very, very minor. So, Keith Smith, where is a good place to learn how to use a CNC machine? Oh boy. Well, unless you're the kind of person who likes to attend the School of Hard Knocks, much like myself, if you have a makerspace nearby or a school that does offer those classes, those are good places to learn. Other than that, if you have a friend that has one or know somebody who has a friend that has one, you know, that's a good place to learn. But the main thing is the software. That's the hardest part of the whole thing. For me, anyway, the hardest part of the whole process is getting an idea out of my head and into the computer. Once I get it into the computer, I'm fine. I am not an artist. I can't draw to save my life. So I rely heavily on other things. I'll do bitmap traces, or if they're simple vectors, I can draw that and learn how to make modifications to those simple vectors. So it's hard to explain. Mounting the material, setting X, Y, and Z, and all that takes hands-on, and that's going to vary depending upon the machine. Watch a lot of YouTube videos, watch a lot of the tutorials, and just kind of, you know, dip your feet in. If you want to go the hard route, you can go like I did and build one. You know, even though I built it according to plans from Dave Gatton, back when he used to give away the plans on the old machine 5 years ago. But it still comes down to learning the software. That's the single hardest part. And you can't start learning the software too early. You know, just about every CNC software has a free trial download that you can download the software and try it out. Fusion 360, the Vectric software. I'm not sure about Rhino. I don't know if they do or not. But download them and try them out. You'll quickly see which one you like the best and then focus your attention on that one and get rid of the others. Because that is the single hardest part, is figuring out the software and learning the software. And I've only been doing this for about 5 years. I'm still learning the software. You're never really done. So, you know. Let's see. James Alexander checking in. Cynthia Minnick, which is better, Rhino or Aspire? That's kind of like asking which is better, um, you know, pork or beef. I mean, they both have their uses. The reason I like Aspire for the type of work I'm doing is because the user interface is easy and it does what I want it to do. Having said that, there's a lot you can do in Rhino that I won't say it can't be done in Aspire. It's just easier to do in Rhino because they use a different type of system behind the scenes under the hood. So some things are a little bit simpler to do in Rhino than they are in Aspire, but Rhino has a much steeper learning curve. I have Rhino version 5 I got from my son-in-law, and it has a much steeper learning curve, and it's simply because you have so many options. And it's kind of like trying to learn AutoCAD. It's you have so many options trying to find what you want to do, find the tool, and figure out the tool. You can really get lost. Now, don't get me wrong, Rhino's an excellent program, but there are schools that teach Rhino as part of their curriculum. So if it takes hands-on teacher-led training to become really proficient at it, you can kind of get my point as to how intense some of this stuff can be. So, but if you're looking to be able to learn something from home, I would say with the right tutelage, Fusion 360 or VCarve or Aspire would be the way to go. And again, you don't have to have Aspire to carve 3D. You can carve 3D with VCarve Desktop and VCarve Pro. It's just creating your own 3D models. You do need Aspire because VCarve will not edit or create 3D models outside of just little things like resizing or rethicknessing or what have you. So let's see. Stephen Toronto. I found plans on Thingiverse for a DeWalt DW611 mount out of wood. I don't have a CNC yet. Where could I get it cut? Well, the thing about the plans on Thingiverse, if there is a DXF file, what you can do, I don't know what kind of woodworking tools you have, but if there's a DXF file, you can download that DXF file, print it full size, 100% size, cut it out, stick it to a piece of wood and cut it out on a bandsaw, table saw, jigsaw, whatever, good enough to mount the router, and then cut you one on the CNC once you have it built. I mean, that's how I built my first CNC, was printing out full-size plans, gluing them to plywood, cutting them out with a table saw, bandsaw, jigsaw, and then once I got it finished, I used the CNC to cut another gantry out, the entire gantry setup. So it works, believe me. Todd HCNC, I would start out with VCarve Desktop or Pro. You can't go wrong. I would agree with you 100%, Todd. I would agree with you 100%. And VCarve Desktop is a good beginner's program. It really is. when I bought, let's see, the first VCarve software I used was the trial version of 7.5. Desktop wasn't an option. You had VCarve and you had Aspire. And the first version of VCarve that I bought was VCarve Pro 8.0, and I've never looked back. I moved from VCarve, went through all the upgrades, and upgraded to Aspire earlier this year. And that's the other beautiful thing about Vectric is if you upgrade from one version to another, say like if you jump up to VCarve Pro from VCarve Desktop, you don't buy a full retail version. You pay the difference in price. So I think desktop, let's just say, for instance, if desktop is $350 and Pro is $750, when you or $700, excuse me, when you upgrade, you just pay the difference in price. You don't pay the full retail. And it's the same thing with going from VCarve to Aspire. It's not $2,000, it's $1,300. So they don't punish you that way. So let's see. Okay. I think I'm going to go ahead and end this. Yeah, I think I've caught up. So, basically, I'd like to say Merry Christmas, everyone. That's already done and over with. And just realizing it's the 29th. This is the last live Q&A for 2019. It'll be 2020. Oh my gosh, it'll be 2020 next time we get together. Holy cow. If I knew I was going to live this long, I'd have taken better care of myself. So I'll just say Happy New Year to everybody. If you like these live streams, if you think this is a good idea and want me to keep them going, let me know. I have a lot of fun doing them. But it's a little bit more difficult when I don't have a video to ask questions about. I am not really sure when I'm going to be posting the next video. It should be in the next couple of weeks. I thought I was going to be Mr. Wise Guy and get a couple of videos under my belt during this hiatus, but it just didn't work out that way. So I've got a couple of ideas. I'm going to get them shot, get them edited, and we will get them posted up. So I guess for right now, let me just say Happy New Year to everybody. Thank you very, very much, everybody, for your support. You guys just don't know what this means to some dude in a shed who, just isn't used to stuff like this. I really do appreciate the support y'all have given me. And y'all have a great Sunday. Get out there and make some chips. Take care. Have a good one.